The United States Navy has deployed one of its most powerful assets into the southern Caribbean, bringing a level of naval capability the region has not seen in decades. At the center of this operation is the USS Gerald R. supported by a full carrier strike group. Its arrival places heavy American military power within reach of Venezuelan territory, and the timing, scale, and mission profile are raising major questions about what comes next. The official explanation from Washington is that this deployment strengthens counter-narcotics operations across the Caribbean. The region has long been a major transit route for trafficking networks, moving drugs and weapons northward. But this time, the response is far greater than anything previously linked to anti-smuggling missions. A supercarrier, destroyers, submarines, and hundreds of aviation assets represent a level of force typically associated with major crises, not routine maritime policing. That gap between the stated mission and the deployed capability is exactly what has drawn global attention. Let's break down what has been happening behind the scenes. Over the past year, U.S. intelligence agencies have expanded monitoring of Venezuela's coastline. The Maduro government has been accused of enabling cartel activity and providing safe passage to criminal networks. Several coastal zones, particularly on the western and northern shores, have become key launch points for illicit shipments. The United States has responded with maritime patrol aircraft, joint task forces, and targeted interdictions. These moves escalated significantly in early autumn when a U.S. strike on a suspected Venezuelan vessel resulted in multiple casualties. That incident marked a clear turning point, signaling that Washington was prepared to take direct action beyond simple interception. The Ford Strike Group's arrival must be viewed in this broader context. The carrier brings more than 70 aircraft, including advanced fighters, electronic warfare jets, and long-range surveillance platforms. It is protected by Arleigh Burke-class destroyers and supported by a nuclear-powered submarine. This formation gives the United States an unmatched combination of intelligence, strike capability, air superiority, and sea denial, all within operational range of Venezuelan territory. Why does this matter now? Because Venezuela is entering another phase of political and economic instability. Years of internal crisis have weakened institutions, reduced military readiness, and expanded the influence of militia groups. Meanwhile, foreign actors have quietly increased their presence. Russia has provided advisors and equipment, China has invested in monitoring systems, and Iran has expanded its ties with militia elements. While none of these connections shift the overall military balance, they complicate Washington's assessment of what could happen if tensions escalate. The geography of the Caribbean is another key factor. The southern Caribbean is strategically narrow, with shipping lanes, gas fields, and deep water routes clustered closely together. A carrier strike group positioned here gains visibility and control over a wide area. From this location, the United States can monitor trafficking corridors, maritime convoys, air activity, and potential external supplies moving toward Venezuela. It is one of the few positions where a single task force can influence an entire sub-region. Venezuela has reacted sharply to the deployment. The government has mobilized coastal defense units, activated missile batteries, and placed the armed forces on what it calls maximum alert. While Venezuela's Navy remains limited in capability, its land-based missile systems could still force the United States to operate cautiously. In addition, Caracas has framed the U.S. deployment as preparation for potential intervention, urging its allies to respond. This rhetoric raises the political temperature, even if an actual confrontation remains unlikely. The deployment also affects neighboring nations. Several Caribbean states have strengthened cooperation with the United States, offering access for surveillance flights and logistics support. Others worry that increased American presence could heighten regional instability or draw them into larger geopolitical tensions. For them, the fear is not a US-Venezuela conflict directly, but the ripple effects, migration surges, smuggling route relocations, market disruptions, and shifts in local security dynamics. Inside the United States, this operation marks a strategic shift. Historically, Washington focused its naval power across the Pacific and Middle East. But this deployment signals renewed attention to its own hemisphere. The Ford's presence shows that the U.S. sees stability in the Caribbean as directly tied to national security. It reflects a broader shift toward hardened borders, forward deployment, and preventive strategies aimed at stopping threats before they approach American shores. The capabilities of the Ford Strike Group amplify this strategic message. The carrier's radar, sensors, and aircraft can create a detailed picture of everything happening across thousands of square miles. Its destroyers can track submarines, monitor shipping, and intercept hostile aircraft. The Strike Group can conduct anti-smuggling operations, enforce maritime zones, escort vessels, and deploy rapid response teams. Even without firing a shot, the group reshapes regional behavior simply by being present. Another element shaping this deployment is the growing role of unmanned systems in the Caribbean. Over the past year, the United States has increased the use of long-endurance drones, maritime surveillance aircraft, and unmanned surface vessels to map trafficking routes and track movements around Venezuela's coastline. These platforms now operate alongside the Ford Strike Group, giving commanders a continuous intelligence picture that extends far beyond the horizon. This level of situational awareness allows the Navy to react faster, identify threats earlier, and coordinate with regional partners more effectively. It also signals that the Caribbean is becoming a testing ground for the United States' next generation of naval operations. Looking ahead, several scenarios are possible. The first is an extended American presence, where the strike group remains in the region for several months. In that case, the United States would likely increase maritime patrols, expand cooperation with local partners, and target specific trafficking networks. The second scenario involves a limited escalation involving precision strikes against high-value targets if the United States identifies threats it cannot ignore. The third and less likely scenario is a major confrontation triggered by miscalculations such as a missile launch, aircraft incident, or unexpected clash at sea. For now, both sides appear cautious. The United States continues to emphasize security operations, while Venezuela avoids direct contact with U.S. forces. But the situation is fluid. Economic pressure, political instability, and external actors all create an environment where events can evolve quickly. Observers are watching not only the military movements, but also diplomatic signals, internal unrest, and regional alliances that may shift in the coming weeks. One thing is clear: this deployment is not routine. It marks a reassertion of American naval presence in the Western Hemisphere and sends a message to allies and adversaries alike. Whether the focus remains on counter-narcotics or widens into a more complex strategic posture, the arrival of the USS Gerald R. Ford has changed the regional landscape. More updates will follow as this situation develops. If you want to stay informed with clear, professional analysis on global naval movements, consider subscribing to the channel. It helps the channel grow, and you won't miss the next update.